The uniqueness or the particularity of Jesus Christ. What sets Jesus apart from all the humans that ever existed upon this earth? What is so unique about him? Why is he deemed particular? There have been more books written about him, more songs written about him or reference to him than any other human that has ever existed upon this earth. A variety of men, powerful men, leaders, different religions, nations throughout history that have tried to remove him as well as his name. Even in Acts 4, religious leaders ordered that his name not be spoken by the apostles. Wars have been fought over him. People have been persecuted and died for him and for the cause of him. And yet the most wonderful thing is that this one man, Jesus, remains strong today. Today there are many legal organizations, again, more nations, and even some courts have desperately tried to remove him and his name, but they just can't do it. But what makes him so unique? It is because he was, he is, and always will be. One of the first things that makes Jesus so unique is his birth. Of all the women who lived at that time in history, or before or after, one young girl, a girl by the name of Mary, was chosen by God because she was determined by God to be holy and pure. And it was she in whom God would send his Holy Spirit to impregnate, and that the King of Kings would be born through her. A virgin birth, by the way, is the birth of a baby from a woman who had never experienced or had sexual encounter with any man, and it was never heard of before nor today. Still, some argue that it just can't be done. But we need to remember one phrase, but God. In the Old Testament book of Genesis, God asked Sarah, after announcing to her that she would have a child at the age of 90, he asked her, is anything too difficult for the Lord? Genesis 18:14. Mary was not only chosen by God, but according to Luke's Gospel, she was highly favored by God. While the Bible says very little about Jesus' childhood, we can see that he astounded religious leaders of his day and was found to be among them in the temple by his earthly parents. They found him, according to Luke 2:46-47, he was found to be among them in the temple. They found him in the temple sitting in the midst of teachers, both listening to them and asking questions. All who heard were amazed at his understanding and his answers. We can look at his uniqueness in his everyday ministry. Acts 10:38 says, you know of Jesus, how God anointed him with the Holy Spirit and with power, and how he went about doing good and healing all who were oppressed by the devil, for God was with him. He never got angry, except when he confronted the money changers in the temple, and Jesus revealed to them why he was angry, accusing them of turning the temple, his house, into a den of robbers, saying to them, it is written, and my house shall be a house of prayer, but you have made it a robber's den. He never belittled people, and he certainly was not afraid of anything or anyone. He displayed God's character in all that he did and said. He revealed to them that love conquers all, and this was seen by the love that he exhibited towards all people. He had great compassion for the poor, the sick, the lonely, the hurting, and whenever he healed someone or raised someone from dead to life, word about this spread very quickly. His miracles were performed not to show off, but to help people, to bless people, to demonstrate the power of God and the love of God in him, and that he was there to do the will of the Father. He was not moved by any man, nor the threats of man. He never favored one person over another. He treated every one the same. He let it be known that he was there to do, again, the will of God. While his priority was to bring the good news to the people of Israel, he never rejected a person who was not a Jew. For example, he healed the servant of a Roman soldier, the son of a Syrophoenician woman, or the daughter of a Syrophoenician woman. He took the time to walk with a woman and talk with a woman who was a Samaritan, a well-known enemy of the Jewish people. Another thing he did that made him so unique was that he often referred to God as his Father. To the Jewish leaders, this was an act of blasphemy because he was making himself equal to God. This was not to be done in their days, and it highly upset the religious leaders of his day, which he knew it would. He often confronted these religious leaders, at times referring to them as vipers or comparing them to be like the cups they drank out of, that is, being clean on the outside but dirty on the inside. When Jesus taught, he taught with such power that it amazed all people. It astonished the religious leaders the most, for they knew that when he taught, his words and teachings could not be refuted. This made them even more envious of him and hating him even more. I believe what the Apostle John wrote, in that when it came to all that Jesus did, there are not enough books on earth that could contain everything. There are two events, however, that sets Jesus apart from all others throughout all of history, and it was his obedience to God and the obedience that led him to unselfishly offer himself up to save all of mankind, that is, his crucifixion. The second event, of course, was the one that still baffles the minds of men today, his resurrection from the dead, and showing himself to the apostles and others afterwards. The act of crucifixion was developed and used by the Romans and considered as one of the worst methods of death ever, and knowing that which awaited him, Jesus said to God, "Not my will, but thine be done." Luke 22:42. Why? Because he knew it was the Father's will to save all mankind, and the only way that this could be done was through the one-time sacrifice for all mankind, and the offering had to be made by the most perfect lamb ever. Paul wrote to Timothy that it was God who desires all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of truth. 1 Timothy 2:4. And Jesus knew this long before Paul ever penned those words. And this is seen in his statement, again, "Not my will, but thine be done." Remember, he never committed a crime nor broke a law, and yet he laid down his life to go through this horrific method of death. You see, the Roman soldiers nor the Jews or the Jewish religious could ever take credit for his death, because he laid it down voluntarily to save us all. Finally, the one event in the life of Jesus that sets him apart from all mankind was, again, his resurrection. He was not raised from the dead, he was resurrected, and his body did not stay in a tomb to rot or decay. He was fully resurrected, and what is so unique is that he showed himself to his disciples and to others before ascending to the Father. And at times, he even ate with the disciples. Isn't that amazing? And Thomas touched him. So in summing it all up, what makes him so unique? Above all, it was his love, his sacrifice, a love that has never failed nor lessened. He is again the same yesterday, today, and always will be forever. He is Jesus.